Happy Monday, party people. Welcome into our Sports Burst studios. On our agenda today, the Rondo is back in Spain. Barcelona, Real Madrid and co. kick off group training today. We head to Barcelona to get the latest from Jamie Easton on that, plus La Liga restart plans and that insane Pjanic, Nelson Semedo deal. And the Bundesliga is back with a bang. But did Eric Krakow and Ray Hudson enjoy the new norm? Is Lewandowski the best number 9 in the world? And are Erling Haaland's interview skills worrisome? I think yes, but we'll get the guys' take on this. We discuss. Sports Burst starts now. A little bit of breaking news for you guys. The Premier League voted unanimously to return to training, small group training that is, from tomorrow, Tuesday, onward. This first stage has been agreed upon in consultation with players, managers, Premier League doctors, independent experts, and of course, the government. A huge step for Project Restart. We'll have more on that in our Sports Burst PM edition of the show. But let's head to Barcelona as La Liga takes yet another stride in the restart direction as Barcelona, Real Madrid, and the rest of La Liga return to group training today. Jamie, we hope you are well. What are the rules surrounding this latest phase of training? Groups of up to 10 players, but no dressing rooms still, correct? Walk us through that.
Well, they can enter the dressing rooms as they were disinfected yesterday. For example, Barcelona sent us a nice video where we saw some staff of the club just disinfecting every single space of the dressing room, because right now 10 players are allowed to just do some exercises together like those rondos. Today, the stage 3 of the plan of the Spanish football has just started. That stage, as you have said, includes trainings with even 10 players. For example, Barcelona divided its players in 2 groups. In the first group, we saw the 4 captains, Messi, Piqué, Sergio Roberto, Busquets, plus the good friends of Leo Messi, like Luis Suarez, Arturo Vidal, Jordi Alba, and then the youngsters like Ansu Fati, Araujo, or Riqui Puig. The Frenchmen and De Jong and Artur and Rakitic and Braithwaite were on the group. Tomorrow they will train again, but not only in Barcelona. We've seen the same images everywhere around Spain, in Madrid too. And after the training sessions, some of the players have spoken. For example, Hazard in Madrid, he has said that he still has to train a little bit more in order to arrive in full conditions to play football. But on the other hand, João Felix, after training with Atletico Madrid, said that if he depended on him, he would even play next weekend. So João Felix is happy to return to touch the ball together with his teammates, but I think that we'll still have to wait a little bit more, Gabby, for La Liga to restart.
João Felix is a little bit younger than Hazard also, so that probably plays into account there. But I wanted to ask, you said that we're not so close to matches restarting. I wanted to ask you, where do we stand now that June 12th date? Is that still what La Liga is aiming for? There's been an update that they've confirmed that clubs cannot play within a 72-hour window. So where do we stand on matches restarting?
Well, we know that Javier Tebas, as you said, just keeps insisting that he wants to restart the competition June the 12th. He has to convince the Spanish government for that, because Spanish government is who has the latest word on this. And they have to just say if they can or cannot start June the 12th. It depends on the general situation of the whole country, because just as a briefing, Barcelona, Madrid and Valladolid are not still in the next stage. For example, in Barcelona and Madrid, with the old law before Saturday, teams wouldn't be able to train together. But that is because the Spanish government did give a special permission to football to start training. This don't matter what stage they are right now. For example, in Barcelona, where I live, we cannot still go to the bars and have something to drink or to eat in the terraces, but in Sevilla or Valencia, they can do that. So it's different depending on where you are in Spain. But as I was saying, Javier Tebas wants to restart La Liga June the 12th. Players, for example, like Piqué, asked directly to Javier Tebas to wait a little bit more. They need a little bit more training. Even doctors of the clubs are asking for that in order to avoid injuries. They are terrified of that situation. And some of the players are asking to start La Liga on the 19th, and others even asked to start on the 26th. This time until the 26th to start, so we'll see who wins that sort of a little battle.
Yeah, is it going to be the veteran players who need a little bit more time or the João Felixes of the world who can play tomorrow, as you said? All right, we have to get into this ridiculous transfer rumor that really made headlines all around Spain and all around the world this weekend. It's such an unbelievable rumor. I'm going to break it down for you, and you tell me if it's true or not. Barcelona reportedly worked out a deal with Juventus. Pjanic plus Dicilio plus 25 mil for Nelson Semedo. That puts Nelson Semedo's value at $97 million. Jamie, please explain this to me.
I think you're missing that Barcelona wants as well the Museum of the Cinema in Turin. They want also 500 Fiats from Turin, those wonderful cars, and they want the stadium of Juventus too. If you have all that, then that is correct. Let's be a little bit serious with all this. Semedo is one of the players that has more value for Barcelona now in the transfer market. So Barcelona are quite convinced that the numbers, you know how Barcelona works lately, they have to present some numbers, they will be important bad numbers after what has happened with the COVID-19 situation. So Semedo, they signed him for 30 million. They have nearly, they just say one thing, that the player, when he arrives to a team, he plays for different seasons, and that helps to just reinvest the money you invested on him. So what Barcelona will say is that when you sell Semedo at a high price I mean 35, 40 million euro, not 95 or 100 million euro, that would be a wonderful price for Barcelona. What is true? What is true is that Barcelona wants Pjanic. What is true is that Pjanic has reached a deal with Barcelona. What is also true is that Juventus is saying, okay, in order to exchange Pjanic, who we want is Artur Melo, not Semedo. Semedo is a good player, but we want Artur Melo. What has Artur Melo said? I want to stay in Barcelona. I spoke this weekend with his agents, and they assured me, Jamie, Artur Melo wants to stay in Barcelona, wants to succeed in Barcelona. Forget about Artur Melo to go out. If that is like this, and according to reports in Italy, if Artur Melo doesn't go to Italy, Pjanic isn't coming to Barcelona. It's that easy.
So this rumor, there's really nothing, there's no truth to this then, because not only is the Nelson Semedo price tag too high, but it doesn't even include the player that Juventus want.
This is a game between clubs, between agents. We know the intentions of the clubs is to, as I said before, look towards the economics. They close the exercise 30th of June, and they have to present towards their socios, in the case of Barcelona, positive numbers, because if not, they can get in serious trouble. So Barcelona, in their budget, said we have to sell players for 150 million euro. Nearly, 127 million euro, something like that. So they sold players in the winter transfer market for 50 million euro. They need at least 70 million euro more by selling players. So they are very interested on putting players in the market and just trying to convince some clubs to sign those players. It is true that Semedo is a player that a lot of clubs in Europe like. Manchester City likes Semedo, Inter Milan likes Semedo, even somebody at Juventus can like Semedo. But if Juventus wants to get rid of Pjanic, it's only in exchange for Artur Melo. And if Semedo is included in the operation with Juventus, what will happen with the Lautaro Martinez deal? Because Inter Milan only wants a right fullback, a huge amount of money, and maybe Arturo Vidal. If you just take away the option of the right fullback, you would have to pay at least 90 million euro to Inter Milan. And I can assure you something, Barcelona does not have 90 million euro now.
Alrighty, my last question that involves the transfer market. The interest in Serginho Dest, is that real? Are Barcelona really trying to get funds together to buy the 19-year-old?
I've also read a few things about Serginho Dest. The truth is, in Barcelona, they are following the player. They believe he can become one of the best right fullbacks in the world, but they also know he's very young. He's played just a few games as a starter in the top level in the Netherlands. So they say one thing inside the club. If we finally get rid of Semedo, our priority is to sign somebody with experience in the top level. So that's not Serginho Dest. They assure me that they will continue following the player. They will continue watching the games, and they know that Ajax and Barcelona have a good relationships, but Ajax also doesn't have any money problems, so they will ask for fresh money, something that Barcelona cannot give because they have other priorities, for example, Lautaro Martinez. So let's forget also about Sergiño Dest at the moment, and we'll see if in the future he can become a Barcelona player.
Jamie Easton raining down on all of these transfer rumors, saying they're very little truth to any of them. Gracias, Jamie, as always, for your input. You'll be back on with us in Sports Burst PM tonight at 7, where we have a fantastic show in store. We'll see you then. A little reminder for you guys to tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to find out why PSG's president is at the top. Yes, I said the top of the list in a poll selection of the most influential person in world soccer, Neymar. We hope you're watching the show. And also in PM, Eric Krakow and Ray Hudson will further dissect that Nelson Semedo, the Juventus transfer frenzy. It's so crazy, I can't even get the words out. And speaking of those two, let's welcome them both to the show. Hello to you both, guys. What a weekend. Bundesliga is back. I know what you both were doing this weekend on the sofa watching football, which we missed oh so dearly. And I wanted to ask you what your viewing experience was like, because this has been the cause of, a lot of debate. And Ray, I want to begin with you.
Well, it was a historic day, Gabby. In its own right, it was an amazing situation. It was weird. It was bizarro world. But this is why we play the game. This is why we watch the game. Where we saw Haaland's first goal, which was a piece of orchestral footballing magic, beautiful movement. Great finish, just outstanding in every element, and yet played out in front of no one, and the human touch of celebration was denied us. It was bizarro world, there's no question. But you know what? The biggest thing for me, Gabby and Eric, it wasn't the visual part that was the disappointment for me of seeing fans and stuff. It was the oral type of sensation all around you, the acoustics. Everything seemed to be really strange, and that affected my enjoyment of the game. It wasn't the game itself or the quality, especially from Borussia Dortmund, but you know, those noises that you could hear. This sounded like they were like when you used to play a five-a-side game as kids in a little arena, and these were some of the best players in the world that we were watching. But this is the new football for now. This is the new atmosphere, and the unmanned seats, the whole sensation of being so frozen out here in my ears, not in my eyes. And it got to a point where I actually turned the volume down altogether and forego the commentary, Eric, because no knock to the commentators at all, but it was those noises, man. They were as bad as a vuvuzelas.
I do want to hit the comment section before I send it over to you, Eric, because I haven't given you guys love, and I am reading your comments. Ryan Moran, I didn't care about the stadium. I was just happy to see live football. I think we all agree with you. Brendan Burns saying, seeing Borussia Dortmund play without the yellow wall was strange. However, Dortmund played fantastic. We are going to talk about that match in just a couple of minutes. Jorge Wolf Hurtado saying, I spent the weekend watching football with my 4-year-old son. It was awesome. That does sound awesome. And Eric, give us your viewing experience. Do you agree with Ray? Was it strange? Did you turn the volume down?
I had a slightly different experience, although very much like Jorge Wolf Hurtado, I had my daughter with me who, for some reason, is enthralled by soccer on TV. And as you know, Gabby, because I've posted a lot of videos of this, every time she sees a soccer ball, she kicks it and she yells, goal. But insofar as the experience is concerned, you know, I wasn't too worried or affected by the fact that there weren't any fans in the stadium. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Although I have to say, and I think Ray would 100% agree with me, that when we're commentating, the fans make all the difference because they really hype you up as a commentator. And I think I actually feel for the commentators of these games because you could sense that they're their enthusiasm was a little bit abated by the lack of crowd noise. Having said that, I actually loved the experience. One, because we finally had football back, so it was good to watch a live game, but it also reminded me of the beginning of my career. I was very fortunate to grow up in the south of Portugal in the Algarve, which is a destination for a lot of teams during the preseason, and also the women's competition, the Algarve Cup. In fact, when I was playing academy football, they played in our stadium, so I got to see them very often. And I love listening to players talk to each other. It was actually very educational, because when I started playing football, I was very quiet. I didn't really know that you were supposed to constantly communicate, even though my coaches would tell me, you need to yell, you need to talk about where you want the ball and all that. And then going to those preseason games to see teams like Tottenham play in the preseason, some big Portuguese teams or some big French teams, I love the sound of the striking of the ball, the players talking to each other, but especially listening to the ball hit the frame or the back of the net and the frame of the goalpost, that clinking sound that we heard when Haaland scored a goal. For me, that is music to my ears.
I have a hard time believing that you were told to actually speak more, that you were too quiet. I'm going to need to speak to that coach, because I don't know what the heck happened to you. But let's get into one of the matches. Let's get into the two big matches. We'll begin with Bayern Munich. A 2-0 win over Union Berlin. But the big storyline was Lewandowski. He hit the back of the net via a PK in the first half. The scoreline would eventually be 2-0. But Lewandowski has now scored 40-plus goals in 5 consecutive seasons. It's hard to pick a better number 9 currently in world football. Ray, would you pick Lewandowski as the best number 9 in the world at the moment?
I think he would be up there for sure. There's one of the great things about Robert is his history, not just of endurance, but of the manner of his ability to keep himself fit. You rarely ever hear about Lewandowski ever getting injured, which is, for me, a part of his legacy, because he's such a well-worn player. There's a lot of males on this player, but he's maintained that sharpness, that quickness, and that wonderful connection from there's big bulging Polish eyes to his brain down to his feet, and he's became an absolute wonderful cleaner. Arguable if he surpasses Luis Suarez, for me, is the best forward of his generation, centre forward, and certainly I think you have to, in my opinion, you have to throw in Karim Benzema is one of the greats of his generation as well. There's very little between them. They're all like snowflakes. They're all different, Eric. But I would certainly put Robert Lewandowski right on the pantheon of the best that we've seen in the last 10 years. What do you think?
I have to agree with you, and you've made all the important points and mentioned all the important names. I will say this: the most complete performance I've ever seen from a number 9 was courtesy of Robert Lewandowski when he was playing for Borussia Dortmund, and it was in the semi-finals, if I'm not mistaken, of the Champions League against Real Madrid, where he took Pepe, who's one of my favorite players, the center-back, former Real Madrid player and Portugal international, to school in that game. It was unbelievable. It was, for me, the quintessential display of a box striker, a guy who knew how to move in tight spaces, knew how to bamboozle defenders with a twist of the hips, a move of the shoulder, a dip of the shoulder, and the goals that he scored, his ability to make opportunities count is almost unmatched. But Ray,
Eric,
go ahead.
When we talk about, the three of them, Benzema, and we all know there's others that everybody can throw up out of England, out of Italy, and it's all fair debate. But for me, where you look at a Suarez when he was at Liverpool and when he was at Barcelona, and certainly with Karim, their skill and ability, I believe, might just eclipse Robert Lewandowski just a little bit, but the consistency factor for me, you look at the poll, you look at the Polish international, and Lewandowski eclipses both of them. The consistency for me of Lewandowski is something. He's one of my father's favourite players. Whenever my father wanted a bet, He'd say, is the big lad playing? That big Polish lad? And I'd say, Lewandowski, Dad. He says, yeah, put a 5 on him to score the first goal. My dad made money from Lewandowski, so he's my personal favourite as well.
Let me just add one thing just before Gab, you come in. One of the things that I've said to you, Gabby, and I've said to on this show in particular, is that one of the biggest cruelties to Lewandowski's career is that he is playing in the same era as Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, and yes, Luis Suarez, because those are guys who score at a very high clip. In fact, you take Messi and Ronaldo, and they've completely tilted the scales when it comes to the numbers of the game. Because if he didn't, I think this is a guy who would have probably won a Ballon d'Or by now.
Yeah, but bringing up Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, Lewandowski is now the only other player to hit that 40 goal for 5 consecutive seasons tally besides the two of them. And so, you know, the fact that we don't indisputably call him the best number 9 in the game, perhaps he's a bit underrated, don't you think, Ray?
Well, the thing is that neither Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo are pure number 9s.
Right.
So you got to throw that into the argument. I mean, the statistics eclipses everybody. These are phenomenons. The two great sons in our footballing galaxy, Cristiano and Leo. But when you're talking about the pure number 9s, the guys who take the kicks, is the hardest position in football to play, believe me, is that central point of the attack. And it is a difficulty that the likes of Suarez, Benzema, and certainly Lewandowski are at the top of the list for me.
And we see so few pure number 9s in today's game. Let's hit the comment section before we shift over to Borussia Dortmund. Real Madrid made a huge mistake by not hopping all over Lewandowski when he was looking to leave Dortmund. Ain't that the truth? Jorge Wilfurtado saying, I disagree with Benzema being on the same level as Lewandowski. Interesting. Brendan Burns saying, yep, the 4-goal performance against Madrid put on a show. Collins and Goa saying maybe Aguero needs to be in that best number 9 conversation. Kaylin Kyle also saying Sergio Aguero to be the best number 9. Jorge Wilfurtado saying Giroud maybe in the conversation. Mbappe perhaps in the future, although I'm not sure that he's that pure, true number 9. This is a conversation that we can have all night long, and we are going to have it tonight on Sports First PM, so definitely join us. Let's move on to Borussia Dortmund, 4-0 past Schalke in the derby. First man to score a goal in the Bundesliga new era was, of course, Erling Haaland. Who else is it going to be? We are going to discuss his performance and his future in our PM edition of the show, but we have 2:30 left in this show. And I want to discuss his post-match interview. We're going to play it for you guys, for those of you that maybe didn't catch it. And then I want to ask for your take, Eric and Ray. Here it is.
Why not?
Is it a kind of message you want to send out?
Yes,
Would you tell us a message?
to my fans.
So very short answers. This isn't the first time that he's given perhaps a short interview. You know, some people say maybe it's the language barrier. English isn't his first language. I don't read it as that. I think maybe there's a little bit of sass, a little bit of a wall between him and the media that he's put up. But this is something he's going to have to work on, right, Ray? Or what do you make of it?
I think you're making too much of it, Gabby, because you're a little stirrer, is what you are. You get your big wooden spoon out and you create all sorts of commotion. The lad's a kid. He's a little boy in footballing terms. He's a gargantuan talent. He's shy. He's got a bit of presence. He's got a bit of ego. He's dismissive. He's curt with his replies. I like it, and I don't see much in it. Do you, Eric?
I think there's a little bit into it, although it needs to be pointed out that that was the latter end of that interview, and he had complete sentences, or it was answering in complete sentences in the beginning. But this is not an isolated case, right? We've heard those short answers after other games. I don't think it's shyness. I don't think it's arrogance. I think that he's trying to cultivate a public persona. We know that he's quite playful and funny on the pitch and off the pitch, and I think that's exactly who he is trying to be now. Now, sometimes that's not great for us reporters or journalists or whatever you want to call us. But I'll also add this: the questions need to get a hell of a lot better.
Well, yeah, and that's a fair point. My thing is, I don't think that he should create such a barrier between him and the media and maybe see the media as an enemy, where it can really be used as a tool for him to get closer to his fans and express himself, and get fans to get to know him. But this Erling Haaland conversation is just getting started. We're going to continue on our PM edition of the show. A little reminder that we have another edition of Clásico at Home this Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys won't want to miss that. Me, Eric Krakauer, and George Gimetellus breaking down the latest edition of El Clásico. And then, of course, Sports Burst PM at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Ray and Eric are back on with me. We'll see you then. Ciao, ciao.